Hello, KFC SuperCoaches. It's the Game Day podcast, round 22. Final week before the head-to-head finals, and Rob Sutherland is here as well. What's the biggest issue facing your team this week?
I suppose it's I'm running out of trades, Tommy. But I just before we came on air, I was ruminating on it, and there's both.
I thought you were going to say the hot mic moment, but no.
No.
We apologise if you copped a hot mic moment at the start of the show.
Oh, well, you were sledging me for being just a one-trick pony while you're a multitasker.
Yes.
That's fine. I always think that it's important to do one job and do it well rather than do several poorly. No, my biggest issue, so I'm running out of trades, but I kind of like it, right? Like I was just sitting here and thinking, it's you have this existential issue as a overall player as opposed to head-to-head, right? Like you pick these guys who are good, consistent performers and they get you through to the finals, like your Batemans or your Tohus. I suppose you could always throw them in there. And then you miss out because you've run out of trades. You miss out on the it guy, the one everyone's going and chasing, which this week is like a Latrell or perhaps even Reece Walsh. And people are dropping Gutherson to get to Latrell or, Will Kennedy, who I think has like the top 10 or 12 most points of any player in SuperCoach this year. He's been super reliable, has got you this far. You're dumping him and you're chasing the X Factor. Well, I don't have the trades. I can't chase the X Factor, so I'm quite calm.
Right. That was a long, winded way of saying that you're very calm today, which means no rants.
No rants. No. It's much more of a thinking day for me. I've spent a lot of the morning sort of considering where I am and how I got there and who I have to thank for that. And it's been a great year.
Very good to hear. My biggest issue is trades as well. I've got 4 left after this week. I've burnt one because I missed Cleary last week. Long story there, but missed Cleary by 1 minute. So now I have to burn another trade to get Cleary in this week. So it's another trade, plus I missed Cleary's score last week. So, 4 trades after this round. So I think I'm just going to have to use them for injuries, and that's it. I think that means no Latrell for me. I'd love to get him in this week, but it's just not going to happen.
Yeah, I can't make the money work. I will be trading for a fullback, but that's just because I'm, quirky like that.
Send through your questions and comments. We're going to pimp your teams. Send them through on Facebook or YouTube. Facebook right now, I'll point out as well, if you do send through a zinger, which is a good sledge, you'll get Zinger of the Week pop up on the screen. There's just no zingers yet, just a comment from Gary. He's asking Gutho to Latrell, which you mentioned just before.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't see it. I do and I don't. So, like, Gutho banged out a lazy 115 against Cowboys, who are arguably the most informed team of the competition. He's got the Storm, maybe Penrith. But anyway, he's got the Storm this week, which is bad. But he's got the Dragons the week after, which is good. So, look, Latrell's got a high BE. I'd be a little bit tempted to sort of stick with Gutho for now. I mean, Latrell playing the Tigers, coming back off a long-term injury. Will he play the whole game out? I don't know.
I'll be really worried watching Latrell, that's for sure, up against the Tigers. Great matchup. Coming back from the injury and the fact that the Rabbitohs just need to win means that Latrell probably stays on the field at least until they've got a massive lead, but they probably still do carry Blake Taff on the bench and he could come on late. But if they're up, I think Latrell would have a lot of attacking stats. So I'll be really worried watching him, but I can't bring him in, so I'm kind of death riding him at the same time.
Sure, he inspires fear in you when you don't have him, but he can also have the quiet games. We were just talking about trades are running out. I'd be tempted by Gutho to Latrell, but I'd maybe hold back a week too.
Send them through on YouTube as well. We've got Benny G saying, "Let's go, gentlemen. Rob looks great as always." You've got a real fan club out there.
Yeah, it's a bit of a... Yeah,
hey, guys, from Charles Zammett, thoughts on Timoko as a pod?
Playing really well. Back to playing like he was when everyone was sort of, we're talking about picking him up as a pod move in the middle of the season. I don't know the Raiders draw off the top of my head, I've got to say. I don't know whether it's easy or bad.
This weekend they got Newcastle. Newcastle are in form, though. I mean, that would normally be a good matchup, but not at the moment. It's in
Newcastle are a
Canberra.
funny one, that their win-loss wasn't tremendous, but they weren't leaking huge amounts of points, except for there were a couple of games that got blown away. They were reasonably tight. Look, I probably wouldn't be buying him in. I think I'm preferring the more tried and true centres.
Dylan Mullen says, I nuffed out Sonny Luke to Mullheisen a couple of weeks ago. I've heard a few people who've done that. That is just a devastating move because he's been brought onto the bench for the Dragons.
Hey, at least you got your vice-captaincy loopholes while it lasted. Well, you got rid of Luke for a couple of weeks.
Got 6 trades left to start the week. One is for Trell. Do I use another to nuff out Mullheisen, who's, I'm sorry for the pronunciation, to start?
Would you?
Would you nuff him out?
I wouldn't waste
I've got
trades
Sonny Luke.
enough. No.
He's got 6 trades, though. So it's a bit early to be doing that. But later, head-to-head final start next week. Maybe you do it then.
Yeah, give it one more week.
Wait till your sudden death.
Yeah.
Big game tonight. Broncos v your Roosters. Rob, let's do the burning issues. Bit of mail at the Broncos. Pat Carrigan has moved to the edge this week with Piakura out with a virus. Carrigan's been playing big minutes, average 63 for the year, and he often plays 80 minutes in the middle. So switching to the edge, more chance of attacking stats, probably plays the full 80, but the work won't be there. Not the same as that lock.
Oh, yeah, he's passed for me. Carrigan's that classic start him in the season and get the reasonable points, but it doesn't have the upside.
He's still in almost 20% of teams, so a lot of people will be wondering whether to put him in the 17. I still think you chuck him in, but not with that much confidence.
Yeah.
Next up, Reece Walsh, very popular this week. Still has that bye coming up, but he has been in brilliant form. I keep waiting for the Reece Walsh bubble to burst and for the Broncos bubble to burst as well. It hasn't happened, but he does have that bye coming up in, 24, that you correctly pointed out on Tuesday.
I think it's 24. See, that's the thing with Walsh, isn't it? That at halftime he can be on 20 points and still finish on 110. Real upside to him. I can see why lots of people are getting on at 660k as opposed to the 800 that Latrell is. Now, 150k difference, they both miss a game. At 150k difference, I probably would go Reece Walsh over Latrell.
Yep, fair enough. Joey Manu is in pretty good form. He switched positions so many times. Here he is bringing down a bomb. He switched positions. Obviously, you want him at fullback. That's his best position for SuperCoach. But even at centre now, he's roaming around, and I like what I see. So I own him. I'm certainly not selling him. I wouldn't go out of my way to buy him, but I'm very happy to have him in my 17, even in a pretty tough matchup this week against the Bronx.
The roaming is good. Having Suwali back outside him on the wing is good. It's a legitimate threat there. People have to honour it. The matchup's not great. Herbie Farnworth is a really good defensive centre. Tends not to make a bad read, so he'll be manning up on Joe. He's also a big body, should hold Manu well. If I had him in my 17, would I play him? Probably, only because of the roaming, the moving around.
Yeah, he's definitely in my 17 every week. No matter when he takes the field, he's always in my 17. D. Cannon is saying Moylan to enough and Meany to Latrell Mitchell. First of all, Moylan, I'm not sure if he's dual position. He must only be 5'8". I think 5'8" is a position where you need 2 guns. But having said that, Latrell's a good buy as well.
And, I mean, is Meany to Latrell going to outscore who you can get at 5'8" if you could get Munster and Cody Walker in there? Probably not. So that's where I'd be looking. I'm same with you, Tommy. I think I'd double up at my 5'8".
We might have a zinger here. Dave Thomas says, someone put a bib on Rob. He is dribbling.
Look, I understand the intro was sort of long-winded and weird, but I don't know. Doesn't anyone else sit there and think about these issues as they get towards the end of the SuperCoach season? The oddness that you pick players that get you there and then you move on for the fancier new, shiny toy. It's an issue to me. Like we're looking at selling Hines, who's averaging 100 points. I know the draw's bad. I know the team's in bad form, but he plays every game from here on out, and I don't know.
Question without notice. What are you watching tonight? You got the Matildas, you got your Roosters, and the Ashes all at the same time. What's on the main TV? What's on the phone or the iPad?
Look, probably on the main TV, if I had to guess at this stage, it'd be maybe Antiques Roadshow. And then I'll be checking the scores on my phone with the Ashes and the Rugby League.
Oh, because you can't. Have you stopped watching the Roosters? Is that your?
I don't watch the Roosters. I don't watch New South Wales. I don't watch England bat. Yeah.
Wow, you must be a really nervous fan. That's for sure.
Yep.
Some big games on Friday as well. Let's do Friday night footy. Tigers v Rabbitohs. Obviously, it's all about Latrell. Do you bring him in or not? If I had the trades, I'd be doing it. I'll put it that way. I've got very good fullbacks, but I'd be selling someone like Teddy to bring Latrell in. I think he's going to end the season really strongly. But with only 6 trades coming into the week and 4 from now, and I've got to get Cleary in too, it won't be happening.
Look, I think we've covered everything about Latrell. The last time they played each other, that was when the Rabbitohs, like the Tigers, I think the Rabbitohs did 20-0. Wasn't that the Jareen Buller crying game? I'm pretty sure, and Latrell was comforting him afterwards. So, Latrell got a try. I think he assisted with the other 2. He's in pretty good form.
Cody Walker also could be a big game for him. I've got him as my VC this week. If I had Latrell, he'd be my VC for sure. I wouldn't trust him with the C coming back from injury, but Cody could go big with his old mate back in that team.
Well, you see, Cody didn't in the last time they played. He only got 60-odd points. His career average against the Tigers is 80 from 15 games. So that's a fair sample size. Who's the right-hand side? Is Nofaluma the winger on the right? I think he is, which is just a gift. So, Cody will exploit that.
Cameron Murray, also very popular this week. I'd be doing it, but I've got to nuff out someone to create cash. So I think it's a good buy, a very good price for a guy who, let's face it, is a grade of SuperCoach, really, who's having just a bit of an off-season, but he needs to play big minutes if the Rabbitohs are to win, and they have to win.
Yeah, and that's the key, right? So if Murray plays big minutes of 60+, then he's a keeper. He's not as explosive as Fafita. He hasn't got the offloading game as, say, a Hopgood, but he'll make 60 tackles, if he's there for 65 minutes. So, yeah.
Storm v the Eels. Gutherson's a really popular sell. You kind of covered it before. It is a tough sell, but you're going to have to sell someone good to get Latrell in. I think I'd be doing it with that tough matchup against the Storm. I think I'd just lock it in, but you wouldn't, obviously.
There's so much talk of you've got to get Latrell just has me now completely anti-podding him and going, he's rubbish.
That's because you don't have any trades left. And you're death riding him.
I have 2 trades left, Thomas, so I just happen to be using one for something else. And I'll death ride him, but like Drinkwater I'm death riding and that's not working either. So, I mean...
Yeah, fair enough. On to Cameron Munster. So, in decent-ish form, came back a little bit slow from Origin, but I still think... at 5'8", he's one of the top 2 options there alongside Cody or Ponga, but I've got Ponga at fullback.
Oh, what's one of the great maxims of rugby league? You don't want to play the Storm after a humbling loss. Well, they just had a humbling loss. So, if the Storm are ever going to lift, it's probably, this week. And if there's a guy in the middle of it, it'll be Cameron Munster.
Few team changes coming up this weekend. Let's do late mail. As I mentioned in tonight's game, Pat Carrigan goes to an edge. Victor Radley is in a little bit of doubt, but expected to play for your Roosters, so it's a pretty big boost for your boys.
It would be if it was Victor Radley of old. This year has been a marked decline in what he brought to the team, both in attack and defence. So I almost prefer if he was out.
There you go, big call. Nelson Asafa-Solomona has a finger injury. It's only 1 week. That's been confirmed by the Storm. He should be back next round and missed our all-time best Storm team this week as well. Sorry, no, he made it at 17, didn't he?
Just made it. There was some interesting selections in there. It's hiding to nothing. It's a little bit like doing the Origin player ratings. You're always going to get people disagree.
Oh, yeah. Have your eyes been painted on?
Correct.
Is every second comment.
Yeah.
And finally, for late mail, Finucane's out for the season. Remus Smith is still pretty popular in SuperCoach, out for 3 weeks, confirmed by the Storm. So they've got a completely new centre pairing, which could be something to target for the Eels this weekend. Let's do guilty pleasures. Right, the player you shouldn't play, but your heart is telling to do it. Who is it this week?
I've Denard over the 17th pick. Whether I go risky, which is Nicarima, or I play it safe with Bateman / Kalamatangi. I'm going to go with Nicarima, even though I like that he's back in the halves. I think that's good for him. I don't like that Anthony Milford is sitting there on the bench. It brings me some fear, but you never know what they're going to do. They could move Nicarima into hooker, move Benji there, or Nicarima might go to fullback. I mean, you just can't tell with Benji. Long story short, Nicarima.
For me, it's on the captaincy, and Nathan Cleary is really popular this week, and for good reason as well, coming up against the Sharks, who are struggling. It's at home. But Nicho Hines is barely being captain at all, and it's a very tough matchup, but he is averaging 14 points more than the next best player in SuperCoach this year. I don't hate it. To anti-pod Nathan Cleary, who is second game back from a pretty serious hamstring injury, and go Nicho Hines as your captain.
I think you're delusional, Thomas.
Fair enough. Well, let's move straight on to Cheapie of the Week. Obviously, the time for cheapies is almost over, or I think it is over, which makes it strange that some people are going for Danny Russell. I know he has been pretty good for the Dragons the last couple of weeks, but they've got Jack Bird lurking on that bench. Ben Murdoch-Masila is back maybe next week, maybe the week after. I think this could be an AE drama waiting to happen. Just go for enough.
I agree with you. There are some out there who have a lot of Warriors in their team, and they might be looking for enough that's just going to play this 1 week, give them that number, and then disappear. So, they might be playing chess while we're playing checkers, I suppose. But generally agree. Taking
some questions. This is from Wayne. I saw Tommy Sangster at Game 3 Origin. I said hello and he brushed me.
Ooh.
Celebrity status has gone to his head. I don't recall that at all.
Well, you wouldn't, because I'd imagine it happens to you daily, if not weekly, having people come up and go, "You that Tom Sangster?"
I honestly don't remember that moment at all, but I'm sorry. I always try and say hi. Rob has always been the people's champion. Sangster is the KFC eating mouthpiece. We've got KFC next week as well. How about Tim Williams? His last 2 shows, we very rarely get KFC these days. He's chosen KFC days, his last 2.
Well, KFC clearly recognised the star power for what it is, right?
Yeah. Tohu to Sorensen as a pod play. I love watching Sorensen every week. I kind of wish that I owned him, but he's too expensive for me.
Look, if you had cash and you've got the trades, then this is exactly the example I talked about. The safe guy that got you this far, and then you've got the guy who's just on a tremendous run, and Sorensen is. Like, he's doing a lot of work, and his attack is great. I can get around it.
We've got Asher Wilkinson saying Cook to Brandon Smith and Kennedy to Latrell. Do you think he's back in the starting team this week? But, I mean, Cook's going pretty well. I assume you have Harry Grant as your number 1 hooker, and you're just fiddling with your second hooker, and Cook's not making your 17 most weeks.
If I had the trades, I'd be a bit worried. I wouldn't... I mean, you don't want to start Brandon Smith, right? But if he's your second guy, there's that fear that he doesn't play big minutes and he and Turpin share a bit, or, I'd probably nuff and get to Latrell. That's where I'd go there.
Look, I'm in that situation where I essentially have enough there in Sonny Luke, so he's stuffing up my AE. I'm worried that Harry Grant gets rested at some stage because he played all 3 Origin backup games and hasn't been rested yet. I'm worried that in a tough week in an easy week for them coming up, that he sits out, and certainly in round 27, you'd think he's a massive chance to get rested.
Yeah, but you can't plan for round 27 rest. The ladder is both looser but but tighter in certain areas. There's a legitimate competition for top two, legitimate competition for other spots there. So I think the Stars will play, and then round 27 is what round 27 is. You literally there's no point planning for it. It's even more difficult than planning for Origin, which has proven to be pointless the last couple of years.
Let's do Cope's captains. Cleary at 44%. It's a pretty high percentage. Here he is, can nail them from everywhere.
Yeah,
second
he was
game
nailing
back
them from that
the
side
hammy.
of the bloody field. He couldn't nail them from the other side. Cost me at least 8 points.
Second game back from a hammy at 44%. I think it's pretty high. I mean, the Sharks have been a good team for the whole season, except for the last little bit. I don't know. Do you take it on?
No, I'd go with it. The Sharks were terrible last week. Their left edge is just leaking points no matter what they try to do.
Yeah, but Wade Graham is back, mate.
Yep. And Cleary's on the right-hand side directing players at will at that side. He'll either be, pulling his second row in and running a short line. He'll be flinging it out to Crichton. He'll be sending it to Tohu direct. At home, red hot, game back into his legs, points.
Nico's at 18%. Ponga's an interesting one at 13% up against the Storm. I know he's in form, but I'm definitely worried about that Storm matchup.
I would be too. I think that was last week. This week he's against the Raiders.
The Raiders, yeah.
Gotcha.
Errors have to be pointed out. I'm still rattled by that guy who saw me at Origin. I didn't say hi. I don't think I even noticed.
He would feel bad. It's not his go. Look, Nico, Nico against Penrith, even if it was against Storm, I could maybe get around it, to look at another sort of famed, brutally defensive side. But Penrith are so good at limiting their opposition's chances to score points. And Nico, he's not going to get the goal kicking. He's not going to... I just can't see it.
Vice captains, Cody Walker, I think, is a lock-in. If you've got Latrell, just do it as well. And Ponga's decent as well. Who are you VCing this week?
Cody.
Yep.
And you got to look now that teams are getting better. If you're going to VC, who's the player you're going to drop? And I'm like, for me, it's probably Nickera against Penrith. Yep. That's why I'm so against a Hines, to use that as an example.
Yep, fair enough. And definitely look at that because I need to go a guy really early in the round to make the AE thing work. Plus, got Sonny Luke there too, who could easily play 12 minutes and get 12 points. Questions to the end. I'm debating whether to bring in CNK or To'o for the finals, but can't decide. Please help. Well, CNK is on the bye this week.
Well, so they both are. So, yeah.
To'o's not.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Brian
I thought you said Tohu. Sorry, mate.
No,
yeah.
Brian To'o.
To'o. I still think CNK for the run home is the guy that I'm getting. The draw is awesome. The work rate's really good. It's not quite To'o, but it's in the area. So if it didn't matter this week, CNK for sure.
Wayne has got back and said, only joking, Tommy, I saw you from a distance, but I was too intimidated to say hello.
Oh.
Gutho, is you? Oh, no, we've spoken about that. Should I trade out Tino this week or hold and trade in Adam Fanua-Blake next week?
You've held this long.
It's only been one round for Tino.
Yeah, but you held through that. It's a tough one. If I was a head-to-head... I think we talked about this. We might have had this question last week. If you're a head-to-head player and you can afford to, then holding Tino could be a real power move because he's going to come back and play huge minutes to finish the season, you'd have to think. And he could win you a head-to-head. Yep,
second week of the finals, he comes back. Look, that's it for our Game Day podcast, round 22. Good luck on the weekend. Big thanks to Rob. Very calm performance.
Very calm.
And professional performance from you today. And we'll catch you for the Teams podcast, 5 p.m. on Tuesday. See you then.